Hello, everyone. Am I audible? All right. Thank you. Let's start the discussion. Hopefully, you can see my screen as well. All right. Let's quickly start the discussion. My name is Amit. I'm based out of Bangalore in India, and I have around 19 years of experience in the tech industry, right? Today, we are going to talk about the developer tools, especially build, I would say not build, code build on AWS, right? So we are going to talk about how do we use code build on AWS for our development needs. Okay. What are the development needs? What is the developer tools, right? So first question is, what is developer tools? So developer tools are tools which allow you to develop a software, right? For example, IDE, which allows you to write your code, like write code, and then you have build, B-I-L-D, build automation to compile the code, right? And then you have maybe deployments to deploy or release the project, release the software, right? So if you're developing a software, you need a place to write the code, right? That becomes your development tool, a developer tool like VS Code or IntelliJ, JetBrains IntelliJ or PyCharm or Eclipse, right? So any of these tools, that's a developer tool. If some tool allows you to automate your build stuff, that's a developer tool so that you can develop faster. To deploy your software, that's also a developer tool, right? So we would like to understand CodeBuild as a developer tool from AWS. And what CodeBuild does is it allows you to compile and potentially also release your software, right? And we are going to see it on AWS, right? If I take AWS out of picture, what do the developers generally do? They have a laptop, let's say, right? And where they write their code, right? And when the code is written, they push it to a Git repository, right? Git repository is a version control system where you write and save all your code files, right? All your software project files are pushed here, right? So you write the code, put them in files and push it into Git repository, right? And what happens is it goes and is pulled by a build automation system, right? What does that build automation system do? It downloads the code files and converts them, compiles them, and create maybe a deployable package, right? Or maybe run tests, or maybe run static code analysis, whatever. You can do automation on that. For example, you might have heard of a tool called Jenkins. Okay, we can do that, right? Now, the challenge with the traditional tool is you need to host them somewhere. So your IT team, right? Your IT, let's say IT, your IT is going to install Jenkins somewhere and manage the entire Jenkins infrastructure. Your IT is going to host the Git repository somewhere and manage the Git repository infrastructure. Right? That's what happens on-premise. Now, when you move to AWS, you can take your IT and say, hey, manage my Jenkins and my Git repository on AWS. So take VMs, create Jenkins, create Git repositories, create Git servers, and let us use that, right? That's an easy way to just lift and shift something from on-premise to cloud. But the cloud offerings allow you to, have these services as platform services, right? So developer platform. What does that mean? Sounds like an awesome thing. But what does it mean? It means that it gives you this entire build automation infrastructure. It gives you deployment automation infrastructure so that you don't have to involve your IT team to set this up. You can use their managed service like CodeBuild, CodeDeploy, CodePipeline. You can manage those services by yourself. You can use those services and then create this automation by yourself. So that means this is fully owned by developers. You can configure this, you can manage it, and then you can use it. You don't need to involve IT. Don't need to be dependent on somebody else to manage this, right? So let me show you how it works. Let's quickly get onto AWS. This is my AWS account. And if I, first of all, a question, how many of you do not know AWS, have never worked on AWS, don't know what are basic AWS services like EC2, IAM, S3? So you guys have not worked on AWS at all. Okay, in that case, it might be a lot for you. What I suggest is every techie, every software engineer, every IT engineer, everyone employed in the tech industry should learn cloud. And it's very easy. You log into AWS, create an account, and you get to use AWS for free for 1 year. Right? Nothing is stopping you from learning. So get your hands dirty and learn. Okay. All right. So if it's too much for you because you lack AWS understanding, it is fine. Maybe you go back, learn some basics, and then come back to this video recording later. Okay. But for the people who already know a little bit, let me show you. So this is the AWS console, as you already know. And if you go to the services, you can see a lot of services. For example, if you go to compute, you can see EC2, where you can create virtual machines. You have Lambda, which is serverless code execution. We also have developer tools, right? So these are all developer tools available from AWS. I'm going to show you CodeBuild, right? And a bit S3. So if I go to storage somewhere, yes. So I'm going to talk about S3 and CodeBuild. Okay. So what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do in next 30 minutes. It's going to be a bit demonstrative as well. So my plan is that I'm going to write a piece of code. Okay, I will write the code for, let's say, Node.js. Okay, I already have code handy. I will just write it. I'm not an expert in Node.js, but it's going to be enough for our example, right? And I'm going to use GitHub. And on GitHub, I'm going to upload my code, right? So my code is going to be uploaded here. How many of you do not know GitHub or Git? Okay, you don't know Git? Guys, you need to. This is just basics. I'm not sure why you don't know, but this is basic, okay? So I'm going to create a GitHub repository, upload my source code there. And then I'm going to go to AWS. On my AWS, I will set up a code build automation using CodeBuild. Okay, CodeBuild is a platform where I can say, I can instruct that, all right, download this code from here, pull the code down, and then just compile and generate some artifact, right? So compile and generate a package. Okay. So when you write a code, you always have to generate a package so that you can deploy it somewhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a storage on S3. I'm going to create an S3 bucket. And in this bucket, I'm going to tell CodeBuild that, hey, upload this on the S3 bucket. Okay. So the first step is I will write my code in Node.js. Second step is this code is going to be pushed on GitHub, right? Third step is I'm going to use AWS account and the code will be downloaded, compiled, and converted into a package. And then finally, the code will be uploaded to S3, right? So let's quickly do that. So first step is GitHub. Looks like I'm not logged in, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a bit. I'm going to sign in here. Right, I am signed in, and I'm going to create a, let's see if we have any. Not this one. I'm just looking if I have any existing examples which I can show you. Mhm. Okay, fine. I don't have. So I'm going to create a new repository and I'll call it as Node.js example. Right? It's a public repository. I will add a README file and I'll say create repository. So this is the repository which I have created, and I'm going to clone the repository now into my local laptop. Uh, Give me a second. Just give me a second, guys. Right, sorry about that. Okay, so let me zoom in a bit so that you guys can see. So I just cloned this repository and here we go. So this is my project directory and I'm going to create a few basic files for storing my project. Okay. So first is I'm going to create a JavaScript file. I'm copying from my notes. Index.js. And yes, and I'm going to create this file here. So it's a very simple file and it's going to create an HTTP server which shows hello from Node.js, right? I'll say hello from Amit. I'll just change it as Amit. And it's going to run on port 3000. That's just the Node.js. Right, so this is my file. If I show you, I have index.js and this is the content of my index.js. Okay. Next is I would need some JavaScript packages. So here we go. These are my packages that I would need. Right? So this is a package that I'm going to create, and that's it. So these are two files, my project files. I'm going to say git add all of them, git commit, add project files. Okay. And I'm going to push it to my GitHub. If you don't understand this process, you should learn about Git. Okay. And here we go. So you see, this is my project and my index.js exists here and my package.json exists here. There is nothing in my package.json. Maybe I did not save it, but okay, I'll add it here. Or maybe I'll add it here itself. All right, so my package.json also exists. Okay, cool. Now, what I want is I have my source code and I've pushed it on GitHub. I want to compile it. So before going to AWS, let's see how do we compile it. Right? Compiling is easy. If I say npm, but npm is not installed here. Just give me a second. So Node.js was missing on my system. I'm just installing it. Oh, what happened? So I'm not admin. Just give me a second. Mhm. Hold on a second, please. Oh, okay. I should do a node and I should say install npm. No. npm should have been installed here. Or I can do one more thing. I can use something called as a cloud VM, cloud shell. Okay. So instead of using my machine where node and node packages are not available, I'll just use cloud shell. Okay, so this is my code, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say npm install. So it's going to install whatever is required for this package, right? So let's say that we want to upgrade our npm version. Okay, it might be because we don't have admin rights here, right? Okay, this is fine. So we can run npm and all everything, right? npm is nothing but a command line tool for building node packages. So if I say npm run build, This is going to compile my whole package and create a file called dist. So now if I say ls, you see there is a directory called dist created. And if I go into this directory, you will see there is a index.js created. So dist is the output of my compilation, the dist directory. All right. So what I was showing was from the GitHub, if you write your code, let's forget about GitHub. If you write your code, every programming language has a way to compile the software, right? Compile the source code. So we can say for Node.js, it is npm run build. And this is going to generate a package. You don't want to do this manually. You want to do it like a way that you push it to GitHub. It is automatically pulled by AWS. And that is done. That's the end goal. Okay. All right. So coming back here. Yes. So now what I want is I want to configure AWS so that it pulls the code from GitHub and then does the compilation itself. Why should I manually compile it all the time? Whenever I make a new change, compile. Whenever I make a new change, compile. Somebody else makes a change, compile. Why? I should be able to compile it by myself. So let's go to code build here. And in code build, let's create a build project. Okay. And I'll give it a name as node example build project. Okay. The default project. What is the source? Where is the source code? Where will the source code be downloaded? I will download the source code from GitHub. Okay, I want to download source code from GitHub. I would like to use a public repository, and the repository is this one. Here. The problem is, even if it is public repository, I may have to connect to GitHub. I'm going to look at that later. And then everything else remains the same, right? And now I have to specify what should be done when this code is being built by this build project. What should be done? Should I just list the files? Should I compile it? Should I compile and execute it? What should I do? So here I'm going to define what should be done. Okay, so I can either write a lot of commands here, or I can write something called as a build spec. This is my build spec. So in this spec, I'm saying that make sure that Node.js is installed and then run these build commands. So echo starting build, do npm install, do npm run build, and then zip the dist directory and create a dist.zip. Then preserve the dist.zip. Dist.zip should be saved. We will deal with it later. So our input for this build is the source code, which we define here. And our output after compilation, after the build step, is the dist.zip. And my intention is that I will upload this dist.zip into an S3 bucket. Okay. So next step is artifacts. So this I identify as a artifact. This is a file which is a output of the build step. So do you want to do something with the artifacts? Yes, I would like to upload them to S3. Okay. And right now I have only one S3 bucket, so I'll just use that and upload my S3, upload the disk.zip into this S3 bucket. Otherwise, I could have created a new bucket and used that. Okay. And I'll say should be uploaded under Node.js-example. Right. So let me take you through it again. Download this source code. It's a public repository. This is the URL. Then perform these build steps, which is majorly this one, and preserve this.zip, treat it as an artifact, and then take the artifact, upload it on this S3 bucket. What is S3? Well, S3 is nothing but simple storage, a very simple storage solution by AWS, where you can upload files and store files for further retrieval. Okay, right. This is done. This is done. This is done. And that's it. I create a build project. Okay. So now there is this build project. And one more thing is, for this build project to be upload artifacts to this bucket, I need to give this project permission to upload the bucket, right? So this is the service role of the build project. For this role, I'm going to assign a policy, right? Permissions, I say add permissions, attach policy. And the policy is going to be S3 full access. Add permissions. Done. So now this build project has permissions to manage data in this S3. Now let's quickly check that. I say start build. It might complain that I need to connect with GitHub, but let's see if it really says that. Okay, so it has downloaded the source because it is a public repository, so there is no challenge. Right, so it does npm install, does it, npm run build, did it, create the distribute zip file, done it, and then take the disk and upload the artifacts into the S3 bucket, right? So now if I look for S3 and open the S3 bucket, and you see there is a Super Mario bucket, which we chose as our targets. And you see Node.js example. And now there is this.zip. So this build system, which is build CodeBuild, downloaded the code from my GitHub, compiled it, performed whatever action is required, and uploaded the artifact to S3 bucket. And that makes my job so easy. Now I can just focus on writing the code, fixing bugs, adding more features, and let AWS take care of automatically building it. Any questions? Did it make sense? For people who are new to continuous integration, CI/CD, new to AWS, new to GitHub, new to build automation, they might face a bit of a challenge. But if you have a little bit of experience here, you might have understood. How is it different to GitHub Actions? You can use GitHub Actions as well and attach runners to your GitHub and then use it. That is also perfectly fine and a possible solution. Any repo scan or code scan for security? Yes, you can set up. You can use various tools for code security. For example, you can use SonarQube. You can use some linting solution or any other organization tool that you might have in your organization. How to push this code to designated app server? It depends. Now you can set up the app server so that they pull from the S3 bucket and connect your app servers to S3 bucket and then pull it. Or if you're running, let's say Elastic Beanstalk or any other app service, then you can upload to there as well. These tools are all available in AWS. Elastic Beanstalk, EC2 instances, they're all available. Artifact is the build output, yes. What are the additional steps to make repository as if the repository is private? So if the repository is private, yeah, then you need to connect to the GitHub repository. So you say manage account credentials, or you can so you can click on manage account credentials and then open the here. Yeah, so either create a token at GitHub and then save the token here in your credentials, or you can say OAuth and then connect with it. Right? So you can say click on manage account credentials, OAuth app, new secret, connect to GitHub, and then just give permissions to GitHub. Right? So that's it. So you have to have a connection. What is the advantage of CodeBuild over something like Docker plus ECR? Well, where will you run Docker commands, Docker build and Docker push? So that is where you use CodeBuild. CodeBuild is your orchestrator, which is going to run all these commands whenever there is a new commit. The idea is you don't need to manually run the commands, push the build, and things like that. If we can build through AWS, why Jenkins is required? Jenkins is not required if you can manage with AWS. But the thing is, Jenkins is quite feature rich. So you can have many, many more features and more control on what you do using Jenkins. So that's why teams generally try to use Jenkins. Yeah. If any error occurs, you resolve it as any other build system. You look at the logs and fix them. Are there any cost considerations? Yes, it costs you to run the build. You are charged for per build execution, right? It's very cheap, but still you have to pay for every build that you run from the code build. But if you are a very small company and then you don't have the manpower to set up Jenkins and then to set up your own infrastructure, then it turns out to be pretty cost effective to just use the AWS platform. Do we have any other solution with GitHub apart from GitHub? Yes, you have Bitbucket, you have GitLab, you have AWS Code Commit, but Code Commit is deprecated now, so uh, you can't you can't do it anymore. You have S3 also. So yeah, these are the solutions. How code build job can get started automatically as soon as I push code? Yes, good question. So for that, you use another developer tool called CodePipeline. So CodePipeline brings the code build and code deploy together so that you can um, integrate the end-to-end workflow. Yeah. So you can use CodePipeline for that. Can you connect Tortoise SVN? As of now, the support is only for Git. So yeah, tough luck there. But I think Git with a few hacks can support SVN. So just have a look at that if you can manage Git repositories using SVN or manage SVN repositories using Git command. Not enough time right now, but maybe in the next session, I can very well demonstrate. Can we test, build on multiple OS and then generate a pipeline success? Yes, you can. So in the here, OS environment, you can choose what kind of operating system you want to use. So you can run on Windows or Ubuntu or Amazon Linux. Even if you choose Windows, then you can choose like, well, Windows has not much options, but if you choose Amazon Linux, yeah, there is standard runtimes only. But yeah, you can have Ubuntu, Amazon Linux, or Windows Server. These are the platforms. What was the Choco install? Choco is a package manager for Windows. So I just use that. It was unrelated to our demo. Any more questions? Can we have an option to switch back to previous build if there is any bug exist on new build? Yeah, you have to make sure that you save your artifacts in that way, right? If there's a bug on the new build, then you revert from the GitHub, from the Git point of view, you can revert your commit and then revert the buggy commit. Generally, you should use pull request to not worry about all these things. Your feature branch can have buggy commits, so it's fine. Is the concept used here similar for almost every DevOps pipeline? Exactly, yes. GitLab runners, GitHub Actions, uh, Azure DevOps, Jenkins, everything is same, similar. Everywhere you have to write this instruction set, which is this command kind of thing. It is an instruction set, declarative pipeline for this. If there is compile error for any code, will it get skipped in build? It will throw an error. It will not get skipped. But you can specify that, hey, if the command fails, continue to the next command. You can specify that. But the default behavior is that it's going to stop executing. What are the additional features of AWS CI/CD tools compared to other CI/CD products? First is it is managed. So you don't have to install it, manage it, patch it, upgrade it. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to worry about maintaining it, right? The infrastructure. And then it integrates very well with AWS platform services. Like it integrates nicely with ECR. It integrates nicely with Elastic Beanstalk, with Lambda. So you can directly deploy on these platforms from CodeBuild. So if you are heavily into AWS, then it makes sense to have this platform. All right, guys, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the time. I have to wrap it up right now. And right, next time we can have a code pipeline and code deploy discussion as well. Maybe have an end-to-end pipeline on this, and we deploy it on a Elastic Beanstalk server. But yeah, for today, only this much. Thank you, guys. I hope you got some understanding of this topic, and take care. Have fun. I'll see you the next time. Bye.